My ultimate feeling is we need to come back together. Like, I still see the left, and not everybody on the left. You know, my mom is still a registered Democrat, but like the left incorporated as the real enemy, the ones who are celebrating the Charlie assassination. That's the real enemy. And the right is going to need to come back together. You know, we have to find our way back to each other. And there have been a lot of people who are very, very neocon and pro-Israel and pro this war, with whom I am in touch and with whom I text regularly. And we've kind of quietly agreed to like keep the porch light on for each other, because the right is going to have to come back together after this is over and before the next elections, or we're never going to win any more elections again.
The band is back together, gang, and the polls are already surging. It's a glorious day in Trump's America. Oil prices are plummeting. The stock market just hit a new all-time high, and MAGA, the MAGA movement, is officially reuniting. Wait until you see what we got today. Stick with me to the very end of this video, because we're going to see how the Iran peace deal is healing the fractures in the most powerful political coalition in America, driving Trump's polls into a surge the legacy media can't ignore anymore, and setting up a midterm wipeout the Democrats are simply not prepared for. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Come on in. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, a very happy Dr. Steve, your Patriot professor, celebrating yet another glorious day in the Trumpian golden age that you all made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. As always, our super chats are up. Please feel free to send in your comments, your questions. It'll be my privilege my honor to answer them right here on this live stream broadcast. Also, before we dive in here, you have to know that there is a window, an open window at this moment in history that has never existed before, and it's not going to stay open forever. Patriots are getting ahead of the game by tapping into the unprecedented promise of AI. Yes, you heard that right. The promise of AI. I know there are plenty of doomers out there freaking out over AI, but did you know that because of AI, it's actually never been easier or faster to create additional income than it is right now as we speak? What used to take months, a team, budget, years of experience, now takes just minutes. The playing field just got leveled, and regular families, not Silicon Valley, not Wall Street, regular families are the ones who can actually win right now if they move. Now, a friend of our show and a co-author of one of my books, Joseph Aaron, he's a good guy. I trust him all. He saw this window and he made a commitment. Every single member of his family would have their own income stream where AI does the vast majority of the work. So we're talking his 18-year-old son, his 16-year-old son, his 21-year-old daughter, even his wife. Real businesses and real income, all built with AI. Now, Joseph and his kids are opening this up. They're hosting a completely free 5-day live experience on Zoom where they'll sit down with you and help you build out your own AI built business too. Now, our team attended one of these, and I'm telling you, they were building entire income streams at the press of a button. Folks who had never touched AI in their lives. It was one of the most remarkable things I've ever witnessed. And if you're worried about the tech, don't be. Look, if you can speak English, you can direct AI. It's that simple. It's literally all it takes. So if you or someone in your family could use additional income or needs to replace income, this window is open right now. And it's not going to stay open forever. Click the link below and join Joseph and his family at their free upcoming event. They'll help you build an income stream where AI does the work for you. It's amazing. Don't let your family be the ones who found out too late. Click on that link below right now. Again, absolutely stunning stuff. All right, let's dive right in here. The peace deal with Iran is now officially in full effect. And what we're witnessing really is nothing less than a masterstroke of geopolitical brilliance, a strategic triumph so complete, so multidimensional, so utterly unprecedented that historians are going to be studying it for generations. Pay absolutely no attention to all the neocon naysayers who are jumping up and down. They were jumping up and down, cheerleading Trump's efforts just days ago. Now they're weeping and gnashing their teeth. They didn't get what they wanted in this peace deal. They're all upset and freaking out. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant that Karl Rove didn't get what he wanted. It's irrelevant that Mark Levin didn't get what he wanted. It's irrelevant that Bibi didn't get what he wanted. Trump got everything he wanted. Trump took a regime that was racing toward a nuclear weapon that would have placed China, their chief financier, forever in control of the single most important energy choke point on the planet. And over the course of mere weeks, he systematically dismantled their military, their navy, their air force, their proxy armies, their nuclear infrastructure. He cracked open the Strait of Hormuz. He seized control of the world's most critical energy corridor. He boxed out China while squeezing China's manufacturing economy from both sides simultaneously. He expelled Russia from the entire region. He brought Arab Muslims and Jews into active military cooperation for the first time in history. He got $0 of American money going to the mullahs. He got IAEA inspectors on the ground. He got Iran's uranium stockpile headed for destruction. And he did all of it in less than 3 months, in literally less than 12 weeks. No ground troops, and with less casualties than Biden's disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. The magnitude of this victory is simply overwhelming. The memorandum deal is absolutely clear and straightforward, and it is a radical departure from the Obama-era capitulation that allowed Iranian aggression to flourish. First, no enrichment. The Obama deal allowed enrichment. Ours does not. Second, Iran's existing stockpile of weapons-grade material is being destroyed. The Obama deal allowed accumulation of stockpile weapons-grade material. Ours is leading to its destruction. Third, no American money. The Obama deal sent Iran over $1 billion in American money. This deal gives Iran $0 of American money. If Iran behaves, they get Arab money. They get controlled and overseen by the United States. Very simple. Fourth, Strait of Hormuz is open. And last night, 12.5 million barrels of oil sailed through. That was a high since the beginning of this entire conflict. Fifth, IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors, they're going in. Iran is already inviting the IAEA to inspect its nuclear sites. U.S. nuclear inspectors are finally, for the very first time in ages, being allowed into the country. Sixth, Iran's proxies must be put on a leash. Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis. Now, Hezbollah and Hamas, in many respects, they've already been largely decimated in this conflict. But there can be no future for the Iranian proxy network that's brought so much instability to the region. And here's the beautiful mechanism this deal creates. It's essentially a dial. This is what everyone has to get. This is what the freak out over this deal always omits in their freak out. There's a dial. As Iran dials up their good behavior, we dial up the economic relief. It's classic Trumpian carrots. If they dial down their good behavior, we turn it off. We sunk their navy. We destroyed their air force. We took out 50 of their top leaders. We wiped out thousands of military installations. They're dealing with $1 trillion of damage. And then here's the key, the linchpin to all of this. Their one single global leverage point, their ace in the hole, Hormuz, the the threat of shutting down the strait and causing an economic catastrophe in the West that was taken away from them by Trump's brilliant counter-blockade. It's actually a combination of the counter-blockade and America's energy independence, our drill baby drill policy. When Iran effectively closed Hormuz, our energy supply, our energy abundance, number one in the world right now, was able to continue to subsidize the global oil market to keep prices relatively low. Yes, it was a pain in the pump, no question, but certainly not the $200 a barrel of oil prices that people feared would have, shot gas prices at over $10 a gallon and provoke a massive economic crisis. That never happened, only because we had an abundance of oil to be able to supply the oil market with. So we were able to calm the global oil market, all the while holding Iran in a near naked chokehold, right? Rear naked chokehold with a counter blockade, which starved them the oxygen of $500 million a day in lost revenue. And that was a calculus that their economy, which was already in tatters, simply couldn't sustain. Yeah, it sucked here, paying over $4 a gallon in gas. And for them, they were losing $500 million a day. And their economy was already falling apart. And so they tapped out. That is what happened. That's what actually happened. This has got nothing. Oh, again, I'm hearing this neocon critic. We've never had them weaker. They were falling apart. And now we're releasing the pressure. No, they tapped out. They tapped out. Iran caved. They begged to open Hormuz so they could breathe again and access the oil revenue their economy so desperately needed. Here's the one, the only, the great J.D. Vance putting it brilliantly, as he always does.
Here's a simple fact. Yeah. The reason why we signed this deal is because Donald Trump did exactly what he came to do. He destroyed their nuclear program. He opened the Strait of Hormuz. And now we have nice Trump. You can have mean Trump or you can have nice Trump. And what he's saying to the Iranians is, because we came what we determined to do, we are going to outstretch our hand and say that if you guys behave, we are going to actually make you a successful country. And if you don't behave, you're not going to get anything, and you're never going to have this opportunity ever again. It's a classic Trump bargain. He gives these guys a choice and says, make the right choice or make the wrong choice. Frankly, it doesn't matter to the United States of America. We accomplished what we set out to accomplish, and now we have, as the president says, all the cards.
I love it. And the vast majority of voters are solidly behind this. Take a look at the latest from Quantus Insights, one of the most accurate pollsters of 2024. Look at this. 56% of voters support the peace deal. 56%. By contrast, just 13% of those polled, 1 in 10, were opposed to it. Those are the Mark Levins, those as well as the AOCs, the Democrats, all wrapped up into one. All the sound and fury coming from the neocon corner of the media today, which, make no mistake, is huge. Neocons still largely dominate, unfortunately, conservative media, but all their sound and fury literally signifies nothing. The vast majority of the country is solidly behind this peace deal, and that number is only going to grow as the pain at the pump subsides and the cost of goods plummet. And again, we're already seeing it. Our good friend Rich Barris, the pollster for Big Data Polling, obviously he's been those of you who know, he's been very, very critical of this Iran war. He's back saying that the peace deal, it's already showing what they're calling a peace bump for Trump. Take a look.
Away, but I think I'm looking at like a 10-point bump right here, Jack. That's crazy. We haven't even seen the details. Yes,
a 10-point bump for the president?
Not even kidding. Right now, it looks like, to me, if I had to estimate it, last time we were at -18. It was bad. It was looking bad. This is like -8 right now, which is insane. He could end up in the mid to high 40s with very much lower disapproval. During this war, his disapproval shot close to 60 in our polling. that's fatal territory. So the president course corrected perfectly, or perfect, right before that happened. Thank the Lord. And he's going to, this is going to turn around to look like very typical second term incumbency, which is where you want to be. I mean, that's it. I mean, it takes time for a president after they leave that honeymoon. It takes time for them to fall, and that second term fatigue comes in. A war accelerates that. If he did reverse this, I don't think I can give you the last time I can. Yeah, I don't think there is an example. I really don't. Historically, I don't think you'll see a recovery like that. George Bush.
Would you call it, Rich? Would you call it
just never?
Would you call this a? Would you call this a peace bump?
Let's call it the peace bump, because it's going to be a bump. The question is
the peace bump,
much?
ladies and gentlemen.
Let's call it.
We are seeing a
bump.
peace bump for President Trump.
The peace bump for President Trump. I love it. And the bump is happening in more ways than one. And I'm sure many of you know, Rich Barris there, from the People's Fund. He's been one of the most vocal critics of this war. And he's been warning for months that this war was hurting Trump's coalition. He had data on that. Again, he claimed that it was a little bit of an outlier based on the other polling that we're seeing, but nevertheless, he was very, very concerned. But now, with this peace deal secured, the Trump bump is officially bringing the band back together, Rich included. You heard Megyn Kelly earlier making it clear that it's time to kiss and make up. And again, that's exactly what we predicted would eventually happen here. Remember, in the end, the core of the coalition was always there with Trump. That's what the overwhelming data shows. This is the hard lesson that the neocons are learning about right now, right? They were the cheerleaders over the last 3 months. Now they're finding themselves out in the periphery, out in the cold. The core was always there. All the polls showed that MAGA was solidly behind the president. NBC at one point actually found 100% support for Trump. It was insane. Fox News polling, which notoriously skews to the left, they found 98% of self-identified MAGA supporters supporting the president. YouGov found 91% of self-identified MAGA voters approving of epic fury. 100%, 98%, 91%. So the split never happened, not at the core. But now it looks as if the influencers, who were the ones most disaffected over the war, they're starting to finally come back, which is great because we're all stronger together. Unfortunately, the neocons are now the ones who are flipping out. Ben Shapiro, maybe you've seen this. Again, he was the biggest cheerleader for Trump for the last 3 months. Now he's calling the memorandum a disaster. He's claiming that it doesn't achieve any of Trump's core goals of ending Iranian nuclear enrichment. And then what he does, it's so funny, is then he cites the rhetoric of war. He cites Trump's goals as he says them during a war, right? So ending Iranian nuclear enrichment, eliminating Iran's ballistic missiles. He's even claiming it's allowing Iran to continue to toll the Strait of Hormuz, all while getting sanctions relief on oil exports. He doesn't mention that Iran's probably not going to be able to export oil for the next 2 months, but I mean, because they're so backlogged in their infrastructure. But all of that assumes that the calculus in Hormuz is the same as it was before the war, which it emphatically is not. Iran lost Hormuz. Iran lost Hormuz. The blockade and its the threat, both the counter-blockade and its ever-present threat has changed the calculus permanently, right? So remember, again, we talked about this at length. I think it was yesterday. Trump wanted them to shut down Hormuz. He was waiting for that. He blew them apart. He rendered them inert. He got rid of their ability to project power, but they could still harass super tankers, which means that London will no longer underwrite them. So they, in effect, shut the strait down just by threat. They don't even have to actually do it. They were waiting for that. And then he announced the counter-blockade. And then economic freedom, Operation Economic Freedom, kicked in. And so what did he do? our forces were able to accompany oil tankers through the strait, yes, at a lesser rate than normal, but they were able to do that and still keep some oil flowing, while at the same time blocking off Iran from any and all oil exports, costing them $500 million a day. So rather than costing the world, the shutting down of Hormuz was costing Iran. And so what Trump did is he flipped the calculus on Hormuz. Now we were the ones who controlled it. Now it was our card. It's no longer there. So they had no choice to comply with Trump. And they just said, look, can we just at least lift the blockade and then we'll comply with every demand? And how does Trump know they will? Because they got no choice. They got no cards. It's just that Trump, this is classic Trump, as JD has been so brilliantly defending. Trump believes that a carrot approach, an approach of mutual benefit, can work just as, if not more effectively, than simply keeping Iran perpetually in that chokehold, the stick approach, right? So nice Trump versus mean Trump, right? But that threat always remains, which is emphatically different from the way Obama approached Iran, right? Obama was scared to death to confront Iran precisely because Iran could shut down Hormuz and drive the world into economic ruin. So the neocons are upset because they didn't get what they wanted. And that's because in the end, Trump's goals were never Netanyahu's goals. They were never the neocons' goals. Again, during the war, he may have made it sound like they were, but what's the first tragedy of a war? The first victim of a war? It's truth, as it were, right? I mean, wars involve fog. Wars involve fake out all the time. And Trump, in the end, based on the pattern of what he was doing, not necessarily what he was saying, although, again, he's going to get everything he wants in the end. But bottom line, what Trump was eyeing were three things, and he achieved every one of them. Goal one, remove the principal impediment to the Abraham Accord security architecture in the region, right? This is where you're bringing Israeli muscle together with Arab money to create the basic architecture for Middle Eastern peace and prosperity. Done. The number one impediment to that vision was the Iranian proxy network, right? Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, at least when it comes to Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran, their ability to project power has been decimated. The architecture now is operational, and it is a fully pro-U.S. architecture. Goal number two, permanently box out China, the Middle East, that was trying to create their own Middle Eastern architecture that would have been anti-U.S. That is now done. Remember, China was Iran's chief financier. And by buying up 80 to 90% of their oil, they were in effect buying tacit control of the most important energy choke point on the planet. China's Iranian proxy is finished. The strait is now under American aligned administrative control, and Beijing has been permanently boxed out. Goal number three, recalibrate global energy geopolitics around American dominance. That was done. That's how we were able to survive the shutdown of the strait with minimal pain. The United States has emerged for the first time in history as the world's largest oil and gas exporter. An average index fund of U.S.-based energy companies is up 67% in the past 12 months, with the majority of those gains coming after the Iran conflict began. So all three of those goals were accomplished within 60 days. No ground troops, fewer casualties than Biden's chaotic retreat from Kabul. This is not a neocon forever war, as much as they wanted it. This is the antithesis of a forever war. And it doesn't end when Bibi tells us it ends. No 20-year occupation of Afghanistan producing zero structural benefit. No 8-year quagmire in Iraq. 60 days. 60 days of air power, 60 days of naval blockade, and the entire Middle Eastern chessboard has been rearranged in America's favor, and this is a key, permanently. And now, of course, all of this begs the question, what does it all mean for the midterms? With the peace deal secured, with the band back together, what are the prospects for crushing the Democrats in the midterms? That's exactly what we're about to find out. But first, gang, if you are just joining us, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments, your questions. It will be my honor to answer them on our live stream here. Also, when the left talks about, affordability, they never once mentioned how catastrophically costly the Biden era's regulatory avalanche was for ordinary Americans. Because under Biden, between 400 to 800 new rules were forced into hardworking Americans every single year, placing a $1.8 trillion burden on the backs of the people who build and sustain this economy. Now, thankfully, President Trump is changing all of that in a dramatic and historic way, slashing and cutting rules and regulations at an unprecedented rate. Earlier this month, the SEC officially eliminated something called the pattern day trader rule. So that's an old rule that forced ordinary Americans to keep $25,000 sitting in their account just for the privilege of day trading. And while liberals argued it was a rule to protect us, protect the less educated, what it really did was it protected the status quo by keeping the little guy out of the game entirely. Not anymore. By removing that arbitrary threshold, the Trump administration has effectively democratized the stock market for every American who ever wanted a seat at the table, which is exactly why I'm so excited to tell you about my good friend Mark Wilburn of Neos Capital. Mark will be hosting a free online training called the Freedom Training Summit on June 25th and June 27th. Mark has been trading for nearly 20 years. His stock picks and training have helped listeners not only beat the market, in some cases, they've even 2 or even 3x market returns. And the last time he hosted one of these events, we received so much incredible feedback from you guys that we asked him to do it again. Listeners like Bert, who after attending one of Mark's events, went on to make nearly $25,000 on his $70,000 account in just 6 weeks, and went over his statements to prove it, showing exactly the kind of opportunities that exist right now in this new era that we're living in. So if you're wondering how to position yourself to prosper in these times, go to freeturleyticket.com right now to reserve your spot with 2 live events to choose from. You can choose either Thursday, June 25th, or Saturday morning, June 27th. Go to freeturleyticket.com and reserve your spot. You're going to absolutely love it. Oh, we got so many wonderful things going on here. All right. The Economist YouGov poll just released their latest numbers on the Congressional generic ballot, and the results are frankly a political disaster for Democrats. Now, back in February, YouGov had the Democrats up by 7 points on the generic ballot. Good, but not great. 7's okay. We've seen them up 13, 15 points before. So 7 is okay. By May, that lead had shrunk to 5 points. Now, as of this week, the Democrats are up by only 2. Democrats 46, Republicans 44. That's a 5-point swing toward Republicans in just 4 months. And it's not just the Economist YouGov. It's happening across the board. YouGov, NBC, Marquette, Ipsos. Across the entire polling universe, the trend is identical. The Democrats' lead is collapsing, and it's collapsing fast. We're seeing it particularly among Latinos. According to YouGov, Hispanic voters just weeks ago favored Democrats by 21 points going into the midterms. Now, as of today, that lead has dropped to 4. It's a 17-point shift. And it gets even worse when we look at the RCP polling aggregate. So RCP, Real Clear Politics, aggregates, it averages out all the polling out there, okay? Take the good, the bad, the ugly, averages it all out. And right now, as we speak, the Democrats have just barely a 5-point lead over the Republicans, 4 or 5-point lead. Now, just to put that in context, at this time back in 2018, when they would go on to win 40 seats, they were double that. The lead was double that, 8 to 10 around this time. So a 4 to 5 point lead in the aggregate simply isn't going to do it. And there's a good reason for that. And we talked about this earlier this week, but there's a key historic data point that makes these polls even more devastating than they appear. So historically, Republican polling actually drops during the summer, okay? And Democrats get a polling bump, right? So we talked about the peace bump. Well, there's a summer bump, and it's a summer bump for the Democrats. That's because bottom line, and pollsters all know this, and the legacy media knows this, even though they never tell their dwindling audience this. Republicans have lives. Bottom line, that's what pollsters have found. Republicans have lives. They have families. They go on vacation. They check out of politics during the summer. Whereas Democrats are counting down the seconds to the next No Kings protest. So, and they don't have any kids. They generally don't have families. Again, I'm not being crass here. We have never seen a time where self-identified liberals have reproduced so little. They have so little. The fertility level among self-professed liberals has crashed today. It's way below the 2.1 replacement level, whereas conservatives are having more kids than ever. So what that means is that the Democrats' numbers are always higher in the summer than they are on election day in November. So if they're only up by 2 or 3 in June, what does that tell you for November? So what's driving this Republican recovery? Well, certainly, at least when we go to the YouGov poll, the Iran deal is a massive part of it. So this YouGov poll was conducted during the very time Trump announced the peace deal late last week that permanently opens up the Strait of Hormuz. And really, in the end, that is the ultimate standard by which voters are going to judge this whole operation, not neocon talking points. I mean, they are literally talking into the wind at this point. For the vast majority of voters, they could care less about this policy or that policy or whether Trump fulfilled this or he fulfilled that. Bottom line, what they're asking are what? What are the questions that they're asking from all of this? Did this make gas cheaper? Did it make my bottom line better? Right? Are things now more affordable? And the answer coming in from the data is, yeah, we're starting to see it. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm glad. And no screed from Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin is going to change that. I'm sorry. I'm not saying it even shouldn't. I could be their biggest fans, but in the end, I just got to be descriptive here rather than prescriptive. Now, when you look at the structural map, the redistricted congressional map, the 3 major projection models all have Republicans beating the Democrats heading into November. So, crystal ball, Republicans have 213 safer leaning seats. Democrats have 206 with 16 toss-ups. Inside elections, they're the most optimistic. They have actually got Republicans at 217. They're shy of just 1 seat from the majority. You need 218. Republicans at 217, Democrats 204, 14 toss-ups. And then Cook has Republicans at 212, Democrats 205 with 18 toss-ups. And here's the math the Democrats simply can't escape. In the end, there's a disproportionate dynamic here. They need to gain seats. They're charging uphill. All Republicans have to do is not lose them. That's the position you want to be in. So according to Inside Elections, like I noted, Republicans need just 1 toss-up seat to retain the majority at 218. Just 1. And keep in mind, even in 2018, when the Democrats won 40 seats, they did not rout the toss-ups. They lost plenty of toss-up seats. They've never won unanimously all the toss-ups. But again, it's not just the projection models. There's also the voter registration. And we've been tracking with this for months now. In the 30 states that track party affiliation, Republicans continue to dominate. And they've frankly been dominating now for 6 years. Look at this now. NBC News reported that Republicans have reduced the long-standing Democrat registration advantage by over 1 million voters since the 2024 elections. 1 million since 2024. And the NRCC found that in the 28 most competitive House districts after the 2020 election, Democrats had 733,000 voter registration edge over the Democrats. So almost a million voter edge. Fast forward to today in the 28 most competitive House races, Democrats have lost all 733,000 of those voters. Republicans actually now have a small lead. That's a near 800,000 vote swing in the most competitive districts in America. The very districts Democrats are going to need to win, and all Republicans need to is to basically hold on to. And unlike poll numbers, that swing 5 points this way or 8 points that way in a matter of weeks, voter registration numbers are real human beings who officially declared their allegiance, in this case, to the Republican Party. And so that's one of the most accurate predictive indicators of how they're going to actually vote. And if all of that weren't enough, keeps getting better, Republicans are absolutely awash in cash. All the while the Democrats are wallowing in debt. So the RNC entered this spring with $109 million cash on hand, while the DNC had just $15 million, but with $17 million in outstanding debt. So they were negative $2 million. And then when you add in the full Republican ecosystem, the RNC, the NRCC, the NRSC, the Allied Super PACs, the Congressional Leadership Fund, and Trump's MAGA Inc. Super PAC, Republicans have upwards of $1 billion available to defend seats, expand the map, and go on offense. Democrats are stuck making agonizing choices about which races to fund, which to abandon. That is not the position you want to be in going into the most consequential midterms in a generation. So now let's close with this, because this is perhaps really, I think, the most important point of all. The neocons, as you've surmised, the neocons are furious, right? I mean, again, and remember, keep that in mind. The neocons still dominate at least mainstream conservative media, unfortunately. I mean, their influence isn't very strong, but their voices and their weeping and their gnashing of teeth can be heard far and wide. The neocons wanted regime change. They wanted Trump to finish the job their way. And they're getting op-ed after op-ed after op-ed in all their favorite journals screaming that Trump sold out and that the deal was weak and JD is an enemy to Israel and all this sort of stuff. And you know what MAGA voters are saying as of today? I don't care, Margaret. I don't care. And, to be honest, not in a callous way, but like JD said to Margaret, in a very deeply practical, results-oriented, America first way. That's the defining characteristic of this movement. MAGA voters do not see themselves as surrogates for Israeli foreign policy. They never have, and we never have throughout this entire... Remember, my argument from the very beginning of all of this, from February 28th, my argument is Trump didn't get pulled into Bibi's war. Bibi got pulled into Trump's war. This was ultimately about boxing out China and putting America at the center of the global energy market with the Abraham Accords Middle Eastern architecture, protecting that centrality for the foreseeable future. Those three goals have been at the center of what Trump was doing, and he brought Bibi in to help. This was never the other way around. So MAGA voters, we don't see ourselves as surrogates for Israel. MAGA voters don't see themselves as foot soldiers for neocon ideology. They see themselves as Americans who voted for America First. And America First means my gas prices, my 401k, my kids, my country, and my country at the center of the universe. My country in the most advantageous position imaginable in the geopolitical chessboard, so as to secure the future for my kids, my 401k, and my gas prices. And by every one of those metrics, this peace deal is a massive win. We buried their leaders, their military, their nuclear dust. We did it in 3 months with no ground troops and with less casualties than Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal. Let the neocons scream. The band's back together. The polls are surging. The generic ballot is tightening. And the peace bump has just begun. Over to you, gang. Over to you. Our super chats are up. Feel free to send in your comments, your questions. I'll be happy to answer them here on this live broadcast for all to hear. Also, let's face it. We all had a number in our heads, right? The number you thought would be enough to retire. And then the price of life went up and up and up. And now the question isn't whether you saved, it's whether what you save can still buy the retirement you plan for. Now, think about what's happening right now, right? So the oil spikes that we've seen of late, everything, when that happens, everything gets higher, gas, groceries, insurance, bills, you name it. We've seen this before. We're watching a structural shift in the global economy where inflation isn't temporary, it's embedded. And historically, when that happens, purchasing power doesn't recover. It erodes. Your dollar buys less. Your savings carry less. And people who are counting down to retirement start wondering if they have to push it back, all because the cost of living moved the finish line. That was my wake-up call. That should be the wake-up call of all patriots who want to get ahead of this game. I knew there had to be something else that I could do to protect what I built. So I researched, and that's what I found: Augusta Precious Metals. And gang, they taught me things I didn't even know were possible. I had no idea you could move your IRA or your 401k into physical gold, tax-free and penalty-free, a real asset that held its value throughout history, through war, oil spikes, market chaos, and that changed everything for me. I've spoken with Augusta's education team. These guys know their stuff, and they explained it clearly. So here's what I recommend you do right now. Go to turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052. That's 35052 to get Augusta's free gold IRA guide. That's turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052 because the retirement you dreamed of is still possible. You only need to protect it. So click on that link below right now. All right, Josh, what do we got? Lots of stuff, I am sure. Benton, query. Josh Phillips on Epoch Times discussed nearly an hour on the cover-up occurring in England in regard to, to the rape of the young girls and the teenage girls. Elon Musk also posted on the same subject, calling for a Nuremberg trial for the offenders. The British legal system is impotent and or inept to have allowed these crimes to be unpunished. Benton, I'm correct. I'm sorry, the professor, the teacher is coming out of me. I'm correcting your spelling as we speak. I could go on further, but what say you to these most what say you most sagacious professor? Is it sagacious or sagacious? I'd have to look that up. But anyway, thank you, Benton, for that. What do I say to that? Wow. I mean, look, you're talking about it. So we've done some videos on this one over the last couple of years. It's actually been, this has been going on now since, this has been going on almost 20 years, if I recall. This goes back at least to like 2012, if I recall. I'm just operating by memory here. And this is This has got to be. God bless Elon for picking this up, and he's been picking it up several times over the last couple of years. But it's got to be one of the most horrific stories to come out of late, that the British media, to their everlasting shame, and the British government, both Labour and Tories, to their everlasting shame, are doing everything they possibly can to cover up. And if Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage are politically savvy, they're like Trump would, they would make this probably the number one issue to galvanize a reawakened Britain, particularly England, to push back against the globalist elite that not only allowed these girls to be so horrifically abused, but then tried to cover it up. And then it's even worse. Then they turn around, they blame you. Of course, it's just a standard playbook. They blame you for being racist, xenophobe, bigot if you call attention to it. If you don't know what we're talking about, what Benton just brought up there, there have been, and it's very widely documented. Unfortunately, you could do your own research. But there have been mass rape gangs all throughout the UK. And the victims have been, and the perpetrators, according to the court documents of those who have been convicted, they are overwhelmingly Pakistani migrants. They're overwhelmingly Pakistani Muslims. So this is not, we're not broad brushing or anything like this, just based on the actual convictions. We're talking, I think it was like 90%, 95%, something. Again, do your own research to corroborate and check. And what they did is the victims have been primarily white working class girls, very young. I believe several were underage. I don't know how many prepubescent, but very young girls. And the numbers that are coming out from around England, from the various towns, villages, cities, they're they're staggering. I get chills even just thinking about it. There are estimates that the victims over the course of the last, if I recall, it's 14, 16 years or so, the victims may have numbered into the hundreds of thousands. One study that I read surmised that it could top 1 million girls, and not just raped, but repeatedly raped. And there were all kinds of warning signs, obviously. And the British government did not respond. As a matter of fact, I think there was even one case where they came in and there was to a flat. There were a bunch of men in there. There was a girl in there. She was obviously abused. And I believe they arrested her and they charged her with like prostitution or something. It was so insane. But it's the kind of inversion that we've seen with woke liberalism, where if you've already predetermined who the good guys and the bad guys are by virtue of this oppressor oppressed binary, and if you know which group in society a person belongs to by way of their color, by way of their race or their ethnicity, and then they call us, of course, the racists. But if that's already been predetermined, then it's just from the vantage point of the way mythos works in the mind. Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. The facticity around us is infinite. Like right now, I could be looking anywhere, but I'm looking right at the camera. Now, why am I doing that? Because I'm putting a priority on the camera because of a value system I have cognitively in my mind that shapes and organizes all the data around me and directs me to action. But what's important to understand is that value hierarchy is not data. It's a narrative. That's how we function. That's why, again, this is where religion comes in and so forth. Religion is not a thing. Oh, there's a tree, there's a cat, where's God? It's not a thing. It's a meta structure of reality that shapes and organizes how we understand and prioritize our lives. And when your meta narrative is this woke meta narrative that says white working class families are racist, bigot, xenophobes, and oppressors, and then these North African and Middle Eastern migrants are good and holy and beautiful and victims of oppression, what are you going to do? This is what happens, and it's insane. And so they're doing everything they possibly can, the establishment there, to try to cover it up, because they know if this blows, if the roof of this thing blows off, I mean, woke liberalism is going to be dead and buried in the UK for the foreseeable future. So it is horrific. It is terrible. And I hope Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage are able to effectively politicize it in a way that's not cheap or cynical, but in a way that brings justice to these families that have been, and again, we're talking hundreds of thousands that have been ravaged by this horrible evil. So thank you for that, Ben. Franz, Dr. Steve, do you think it's possible that the ballot personnel in LA were trained how to count votes at the Laring Center in Minneapolis? Do they have their own Laring Center in LA? I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just so obvious. Everyone's seeing what happened in LA, and they're really flipping out at it, going, whoa, that was brazen. And again, this is the second time that's happened before. If I remember, it was Karen Bass was the beneficiary of that. The Republican, I forgot his name, but very ultra wealthy. I thought he was a billionaire, self-financed his campaign. He came out ahead on election night, and then 10 days later, after all the counting, Karen Bass came out 10 points ahead. So the winner on the election night is not the winner a week later, and now we're seeing the same thing again. It's just insane. What was it? CNN tried to spin it by saying that Republicans come out ahead culturally, but then structurally, the Democrats come out ahead. It was just so. I mean, this is the absurd. Again, it's like what we're seeing in the UK. This is the absurdity that the woke establishment has to descend into in order to defend the indefensible. Brolem, go MAGA. Will Trump take action against Cuba? Yeah, that's. I love your thumbnail there. Yeah, I think that's. It's going to be a lot easier because it's in our backyard. We actually have a military there, and already. So yeah, I mean, just based on what I saw, the Cuban assembly pass unanimously, as they always do, one of the most powerful free market reforms ever. Again, this is the way Trump does it. He doesn't care how you get it done. This is what it drives me crazy with the neocon criticism, where they say, yes, but you said you would do this and you're not doing it. Trump is thinking big picture. I want Cuba free. I want Cuba a pro-American, pro-capitalist island where the people can finally be free. And and it's because this is all part of the shield of the Americas. It's all part of the Monroe Doctrine turning into the Donroe Doctrine of a American civilizationalist hemisphere, Western Hemisphere, and the days of having a Venezuela in here or Cuba. Those are all. Well, Venezuela is directly a Cold War relic, but or Cuba's directly a Cold War relic, whereas Venezuela is sort of an afterthought. But nevertheless, I think that's definitely what we're seeing here. We're seeing Trump doing what he does. It's the magic of being able to transform countries by not necessarily bringing, again, it's just the threat, or it's just, they just saw what happened to Iran and they don't want that to happen to Cuba. And it would be a lot easier in Cuba, let's just be honest. So anyway, so yeah, I do think, I don't know what action he's taking, but whatever he's doing, it's working. Let's put it that way. Miami Cuz, not the Iran war is over. Is Rich Barris cut back around? It looks like it. It looks like it. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, certainly with the way, even Jack was a bit on the fence, it seemed, as well as was Bannon. Now, it's over. We got what we wanted. It was a geopolitical masterstroke. It was 3D chess at its best. Abraham Accords secured. China boxed out permanently, and the United States at the center of the global oil market from this point forward. It was just brilliant. And we're all beneficiaries of it. Again, we can all see it at the pump. It's not this, again, like Bush tried to sell on us. It's not like, we need to bring democracy to Iraq so that we never have another 9/11. It was just so abstract, and nobody bought it. This is tangible. And the more tangible it appears at the pumps and in our standards of living and cost of living, the more I think Rich is going to be very, very happy, and is going to be right back on this. And frankly, the way Rich does not. He hates neocons, to his credit. For me, broken clock can be right twice a day. I think the neocons were generally right during these last 3 months. Their analysis was spot on. They recognized the geopolitical map, but now that Trump has turned on them, and now that JD is coming out, and they hate JD. Just keep in mind, neocons are all, every single one of them are all Marco Rubio fans, just like they were Ron DeSantis fans. They despise JD. And so, again, they're going to be very loud and obnoxious, like they were with Trump back in 2022, 2023, when he's announcing he was coming back. They're like, no. We need Ron DeSantis. We need MAGA, but without all the baggage, without J6, all this nonsense. It would have been a disaster, as we saw. Ron DeSantis wasn't even going to win Florida, but in the primaries. It's the same thing here. All the right people are mad again. And so I think that's bringing the band back together. Kevin, can we force Senator Leader John Thune to pass the Save America Act or resign by boycotting his big donors? Money talks, politicians walk. Yeah, I like the way you think, Kevin. You're very strategic. I've noticed that in your posts, and very practical, action-oriented. Yeah, I have mixed. So it's, you're very clear, and I'm going to get kind of kerfuggled here. Perfect word for it, kerfuggled, garbled. I don't know who to blame. Ultimately, do I blame the 4 senators who are disgruntled, narcissistic assholes who hate you and me and the whole MAGA base? They hate us. They would vote for Gavin Newsom before they vote for JD. And I've seen it. I've seen these neocon-like figures actually openly say that. I'm sorry, with 2020, if it's JD, the neocons always try to hold their vote, hold you hostage to how they're going to vote. It's never worked, or it used to work maybe, but it doesn't work anymore. And while they're telling us that we have to hold our nose and vote for whoever their candidate is. I don't know if I need to blame them, because they're the ones that are holding it up. They're not even voting to have it put into reconciliation. They're the ones who are preventing it from getting put into a reconciliation bill, where it could just be 50 votes plus 1 tiebreak. I don't know whether it's to blame them or to blame Thune, who doesn't seem to know how to play politics. Politics is all about leverage, right? It's all about power, and power is about leverage. And what is leverage? Leverage is having something that other people want. And what Thune is, and this is what Trump is really leaning on him for. Dude, you need to figure out what the hell do 2 or 3 of them want and give it to them. It's the carrot. Or what are they really freaked out over? The stick. And now, again, 3 of the 4, I think, are leaving, but it's the stick. You know, you've got to put either the fear of God in them, or you've got to fulfill the lusts of their flesh, whatever it is. There's a leverage to get, it's politics. There's a leverage to get them to do what they need done. And Thune hasn't figured it out. So I guess I just said thank you, Kevin, for me working. Yeah, so in the end, it is Thune. It's Thune's job. He's Senate leader. It is his job to get these people on board, and he hasn't. So do we go after his donors? Yeah, so you're going the stick route, putting the fear of God in him. That would be a good idea, absolutely. Again, if we're going to go to before the American people in August with a really awesome, first time ever midterms convention, we've got to show a winning strategy here, and Thune is holding that back, and so whatever we can do to pressure Thune, I think we need to do. But I'm beginning to wonder he's just not the. A lot of people say, oh, he's just a neocon. He's trying to thwart Trump. I'm beginning to wonder. No, I don't see that, because he's seeing his own rhinos go down. Right, Tillis is gone, and what's his name? Cassidy, Bill Cassidy, and Louisiana is gone, and John Cornyn is gone, and so we've seen plenty of his rhinos getting crushed. So I just, in the end, it'd be interesting to see what Lindsey Graham would say on this, because Lindsey is basically, for right or for wrong, again, I'm not saying it's a good thing, right? I'm being descriptive, not prescriptive, but Lindsey tends to be the soul of the Senate, Republican Senate, and he can figure out pretty much how to get everybody to get a Murkowski to vote a certain way, or even a Mitch McConnell or something. But what Mitch McConnell is doing right now is just so incredibly petty. Same with Tom Tillis. It's just so incredibly petty. It's really a big FU to the MAGA movement. And it's very sad. But anyway, yeah, in the end, I think anything we can do to pressure Thune to try to rise to the occasion would be awesome. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, how could California have those disgusting new districts if the SCOTUS ruled that gerrymandered districts for party and race are unconstitutional? Well, yeah, it'll get struck down, but it's California. Blue states will continuously tell SCOTUS to stuff it by bringing by having case after case after case brought forward to them by virtue of just their recalcitrance. We see it with gun control. I mean, look at New York and gun control. How many times does the Supreme Court have to strike down New York gun control laws, blue laws, or Illinois blue state gun control laws? How many times they have to strike it down before, at some point, it seems to me that the Supreme Court is going to have to hold them in contempt of court in some way? But this is just beginning, and so that has to do with Clay decision and all that, with the Second Amendment, but I'm not Clay. What am I saying? The DC. There's a C that goes with that. Somebody versus DC. So I don't know. This is a brand new one with this was the Clay decision. That's what I'm getting all mixed up. The Clay decision with the redistricting and racial standards. That's gonna have to play itself out. I mean, but yeah, they're certainly recalcitrant. That's for sure. Richard, I saw a vid of European leaders, quote unquote, socializing before the G7 meeting. Sounded like high school kids. You thought, yeah, they are clowns. They are clowns. I mean, again, Europe is, they're in a tough spot, man. You got to be a little bit I don't know. You have to be a little empathetic. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. I feel good. I've got the team's back together, band's back together, so I feel good. But maybe on a different day I'll feel I'll smack him down. But bottom line, Europe has, since post World War II, has been a vassal state, a massive vassal state. The United States, via the Marshall Plan, has controlled and governed, in effect, in terms of at least security, Western Europe. That's allowed Western Europe to pursue all the state social welfare programs and so forth. And then when the Iron Wall collapsed in 88 and 89, and then Eastern Central Europe came in, we basically expanded that vassal structure to the whole of the continent. So they really don't know what to do. When Trump walked in there and said, "I'm the boss," he ain't kidding. Because the other, if I recall, the only other non-European nation there was Japan. And Japan has been a vassal state, at least when it comes to security as well. It's changing. It's changing slowly as the world becomes more multipolar. But in the end, European leaders are kind of jokes in that sense. Even, how do I say this rightly? Even to a certain extent, to a little bit of an extent, even kind of their populist leaders, because their populist leaders are vassal. They're vassals. They're held. Their hands are tied by the EU. So it's a multi-layered vassal system, and they just can't really do that much. So they end up being a bit clownish, for lack of a better way of framing it. RT Core, great and Larid, Patriot Professor. Have they signed the peace deal yet? Did they actually sign the peace deal? Do you think it's actually going to hold? Not asking a doomer question. You've talked about how much of vice grip the deal is. Just asking if you think Iran isn't going to try to find some way to screw it up. Oh, if it hasn't happened yet, you should. Lyser, oh, there you go. Yeah. No, as I understand it, yes, it has been fully signed. They were thinking of having a formal ceremony in Switzerland today. It looks like that's not happening, but again, it's irrelevant. Yes, it has been officially signed. President Pezeshkian has signed from there, and President Trump has signed from our end. Look, bottom line, there is not a single Iranian regime. There are multiple factions, and they're fighting each other right now. Okay, so remember, this all goes back to the Mosaic doctrine. So if ever the supreme leader and all of his, his inner circle get wiped out for whatever reason, if the Mossad kind of figure out how to get them wiped out, which happened, of course, on that Saturday morning in Tehran on February 28th, then all the different various factions in I forget what they are, 29, 31 provinces of Iran, all the different factions of the IRGC get to break up into more or less sovereign entities, and they can act on their own, irrespective of any orders from above, from leadership. So that went into effect literally on the first day, and the advantage to that is the regime can continue in microcosmic form, in multiple forms, but the disadvantage is that you don't have any kind of coherent structure. So it's going to take some time for Iran to try to find some kind of the regime to find some kind of coherency. So that's why you'll probably see some attacks here or there. That's all. They understand that, because that's coming from these different sovereign brigades, as it were, connected to these individual provinces. But yeah, I don't see any other way. If it doesn't hold, they can't breathe again. Just exactly what Trump has said. If they push back, we smack them. We've got them exactly where they want them. We need to do two things. We need to destroy their ability to project power, fight back effectively. So we rendered them inert. And then secondly, we effectively reverse the calculus of Hormuz, so that when they shut Hormuz down, it hurts them more than it hurts the rest of the world. So both of those two factors were effectively accomplished over the course of the last 2.5 months or so. And so I just don't know I can't see any scenario where they could come together as a coherent force and push back against all this, because they don't have any force to push back with. Number one, everything, they've been rendered inert. And then number two, they only end up hurting themselves more than they hurt the rest of the world. And that's an escalation ladder you can't win. Franz, Dr. Steve, will continue kinetic activity in Lebanon and Syria compromise the future of the Abraham Accords? Don't think so. Again, I think they're treating it as part of sort of this decentralized structure right now. If there's no central command in Tehran, then obviously whatever's happening in Lebanon and Syria is going to have a certain level of autonomy, and you're just going to have to let some of the death rattling play itself out. So it looks like everybody recognizes the dust has settled. That's what I've been trying to argue all this past week. The dust has settled. And when the dust settled, what happened? U.S. forces have all the leverage. Iran has none. So all those people out there, more than the dissident right, say, oh, Iran won this, because they're just parroting now the neocon talking points, the BB talking points, and so on. It's just, again, it's part of the narrative that you're trying to structure the data around. It's a meta narrative. It's not rooted in the data. The data is very, very simple. The Iranian regime has been ineffectively rendered. They've been pacified. They've been defanged, as we were calling it originally, from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed, from the abominable snow monster, right? No one's afraid of them anymore. So they've been defanged. They have no air force. They have no navy. They have 90% of their missile capacity has been eliminated, destroyed. Their launch systems have been destroyed. Their drones, most of their drones have been rendered inert. So they don't have the ability to push back. And then again, the one card they had was to threaten, just with like a sea mine. The one card they had was to close down Hormuz. And then we've made that card obsolete by making the closing down of Hormuz worse for them than it is for the rest of the world. And so there's really nothing they can do, especially given the fact that so much of oil infrastructure around the world has recalibrated itself around the United States and bypassing Hormuz. Like, for example, Saudi Arabia's east to west corridor that goes down through the Red Sea, bypassing Hormuz entirely. So there's really nothing they can do anymore. And now that the dust has settled, and everyone seems to fully recognize that now, then you're just going to have to allow the little flare-ups here or there play their course, and not let it lead to a wider war. That's what Trump was so pissed with Bibi on, is he was like, you've got to just kind of let this play out, dude. Stop thinking that you always have to go up the escalation ladder when something like this happens, kind of thing. James, to all of our American brothers and sisters from Australia, hope you're all well. God bless you and yours, Dr. Turley. Good sir, your integrity is well regarded. Peace, Australia, for Trump. Well, God bless you. God bless you, my friend James. Very, very. And then One Nation. God bless One Nation. Love to see that party is exploding right now. Your nationalist populist party, your civilizationalist populist party, we should probably say. And it's been so cool just seeing what's going on in Australia. It's very, very cool. So thank you, sir, very much. Weak and wimpy. Is SCOTUS going to rule on one day election day soon. With what result? Will Trump still use the United States Postal Service to stop mail-in ballots in states that refuse to turn over the rolls? Will all this be in time for the midterms? So, as I understand it, yes. So, so June is a big month, and July is also another big month for SCOTUS decisions. So they should be coming out, and hopefully we'll see that before the midterms. The United States Postal Service is different. That's Trump using an executive order to force blue states to comply with the national citizen database that Homeland Security has by overlapping by corroborating their voter rolls with the citizen database. And if they fail to comply, what he's threatened is then, well, as Article 2 executive authority has ultimate authority over the U.S. Postal Office being a federal department, then I'm going to order it to not deliver mail-in ballots. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But that is different from the single election day decision from the Supreme Court. But yeah, no, I think, again, Trump wants to see election integrity restored more than anyone else, obviously. So I would trust the guy you voted for. William Dr. TGIF, can you provide the most crucial Senate and congressional seats that the GOP must win before they usurp Democrats from their incumbent spots in Congress? Oh, I would have to bring that up. I just had that up. Let's see if I've got that. It looks good right now in terms of all the seats that the toss-ups that we'll need to defend. Let's go. We could go back to Williams when I get this up. Hopefully I have it at my fingertips. Chris, thank you for being a voice of reason and just a talking head or debating like Fox does. Thank you for being a voice of reason and just a talking head or debating like Fox. I have learned from you. Then more. I think there's a more in there. I'm going to assume. I'm going to dress up your comment there. Thank you, Chris. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. And I do. I'm a teacher at heart. I was in academia for 20 years, and so this is what I love to do. I love to teach, and so thank you. I love. I love this, and I love you. So thank you very, very much. Franz, can you please take a minute to recognize portion sizes, refills, dipping sauce, and yellow school buses? Thank you. Has that not been absolutely cool? Hold on. Still looking up here. Has that not been unbelievably cool? I'm part of an international family. So my wife is from Japan, grew up, born and raised, and her family is a post World War II. So her aunts and uncles are post World War II part of the family, and her grandfather believed the future was definitely, and this is even before World War II, he believed the future was in America. He thought the future was in the West, the future was in America. So he came over here, he got educated here, and then sent all of his kids here to the United States. They all speak English. It's a problem for me because I've always wanted to learn Japanese, but I get very, very late. I know Nihongo Skoshi Hanashimasu. I know a little bit of Japanese, but I get very lazy because they get impatient with my Japanese and they just break into English, that kind of stuff. And I could tell you they all, particularly Akiko's uncle, he loved America. He loved America. There was just something about the United States that and it was kind of almost weird. Like he liked stay. So in Japan, he lived his whole life in Japan for the exception of the time he was here. But he ended up he loved He loved steak. He loved, hamburgers, cheeseburgers. He loved American fare. If he bought a vacuum cleaner, it would be like a Hoover. It had to be a Hoover. I mean, just everything American was just something he loved about the country. And so when I'm seeing all these people coming out from the World Cup from all over the world, particularly the Japanese, and they're of course they're in Dallas, so they're eating Texas barbecue, and seeing them encounter Texas barbecue for the first time, seeing just all of the Europeans coming and feeling so free to be able to celebrate their country's cultures, customs, and traditions. You don't have to denigrate them. You can celebrate them. We love culture. So we have studies that show, this is very interesting. This comes from, if I remember, Matthew Goodwin, the British scholar, from his 2018 study on civilizational populism. We have studies that show that nationalist populists, voters for Trump and so forth, have a more genuine interest and appreciation of other expressions of nationalism than do liberals. Liberals just hate nationalism. They like it in kind of the third world sense, or sort of this ethnocentric kind of, minority sense. But in terms of real traditionalist nationalisms, and especially European nationalisms, they denigrate it. It's the liberals who hate that. It's the globalists who hate that. It's nationalists who generally love and appreciate nationalism. Just like people who are deeply religious will tend to often have an appreciation of other religions. So anyway, yes, it's absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited about it. And I wish we could just invite the world to, I wish we could invite the world to America every June and just have this incredible celebration. I mentioned the other day, to me, it from my theological mind, it does kind of give me a little bit of a foretaste of what it's like when every tribe, tongue, nation comes together in celebration and worship. You don't have to deny who you are, but who you are blends together with the other celebrations. And then you just get this extraordinary macro celebration. That's just so wonderful, so beautiful. Let me see if I can find for the seats. The only problems, my database, it may take me some time here. Let me look at one thing. I can't talk and find it here. Yeah, I am not going to be able to find it. I've got it broken up in region, but I need just a list, like the 20 races, more or less, where this comes down. I'm going to have to look it for you. Hold me accountable for Monday night. Maybe this is it. Hold on, let me check. On our Monday night live Q&A that we do together. Is this it? Mid-Atlantic, New England. I need just a list. You're gonna have to ask me on Monday night. Hopefully I can find it then. Movie erotic. Shapiro supports MAGA. He could be skeptical. Agree. Shapiro supports MAGA. He could be skeptical. Agree. Not. Yeah. So I'll just draw from what I think you're saying. I don't necessarily know. I'll do my best to try to interpret what you're saying there. But Ben is an ideologue, as I understand from just watching him. He is an ideologue. He loves someone like Thomas Sowell. He is a very structured, very well thought out political philosophy. To the extent that MAGA passes through that consistently, he will support it. To the extent that it diverges, he will denounce it. He will be very critical of it. I'm not that way. I am a political pragmatist. I don't see politics as a philosophy. I see politics as power. That's what politics is. Politics is power, and power uses leverage, and leverage is giving people what they want. Leverage is having the ability to give people what they want. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking at my politics within this larger civilizational frame. So I don't see politics. I mean, again, you can see it this way if you want, but for me, I see politics as a thing within civilization. Civilization is not political. Civilization is much larger than the political. It goes into the religious and the artistic and the architectural and the traditional and the familial and the fashion and you name it. It's all got political interconnections, right? But I see the world as civilizational, and I'm excited that we are going through a mass period of civilizationalism where the world is returning back to the ancient civilizations of old. And then politics is being used as part of that project of returning, of making, America great again, of making Russia great again, of making India great again, of making Iran great again, whatever it is, making China great again. Japan, right? Sanae Takaichi, who won the biggest landslide victory in Japan's history of late, very traditionalist. Her motto for that election was "Japan is back." Japan is back. So for me, it's easy to be able to kind of enter into a nationalist populist vision of politics, no matter where it is, no matter where it's happening, and see how they're using it to draw their country back as the most prosperous and promising way forward into a flourishing future. This archaeo-future vibe is the principal dynamic behind the rise of a new civilizationalist world. So I'm relatively politically agnostic. I don't care what your politics are per se. That doesn't mean I necessarily want to live under them, but I don't care what your politics are per se. I'm trying to understand how you're using the politics or how politics are being used in a particular civilizational context to draw that nation into a deeper manifestation of this civilizationalist return. Ben sees politics, it seems to me, as more of a science. It's a philosophy. And if you're consistent with it, he's with you. And if you're not, he's not with you. And, that's okay. You can do that. But then you're going to get the schizophrenia. Well, one day he's all for you and the next minute he's not. Whereas for me, one of the reasons why I'm very consistent with MAGA is I see MAGA as the movement of awakening American civilizationalism. And so I'm fascinated in how Trump is doing that. And if people come to go, well, what if, he does this and it's against the Constitution and so forth? Well, so you've got your own little political philosophy structure. Great. I'm happy. Okay, bye. I could care less. Why should I choose yours? Why? This is why I have no patience with a Massey or with a Rand Paul or even a Ron Paul for that matter. I just have no patience. A lot of people love building a political philosophy that they think is rich and robust, and I'm sure it is. And then what they do is they just become a soundbox for that philosophy based on whether Trump is consistent or inconsistent with it. They dominate Fox News. They dominate all the talking heads. And I could give a rat's patootie on that. I could care less. Again, that doesn't mean I don't care about the Constitution or anything like that. But what it means is I'm looking at politics from a larger lens, and that lens is civilizationalism. And it sees politics as a microcosm of that civilizationalism. And I'm fascinated to the extent to which Trump is tapping into political dynamics to put America at the center of this rising civilizationalist movement. And that just gives me, I think, a flexibility that someone with a very rigid, just structured political philosophy just doesn't have. So that's where I would put Ben. That's the way I see it. Chris, I meant to thank you for being an educator and not a talking head and or ill-informed YouTuber. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very, very kindly. Yeah, you're again, guys. Thank you. I mean, seriously, I've always been a teacher, even when I was a kid. When I first learned my first, you guys know I'm a guitar player. My first job was as a guitar teacher. That's my first job. I learned the guitar as a kid, and then before I could legally work, when I was 14, I started giving guitar lessons to kids all around my neighborhood, and they paid me. I've always loved teaching, and so I can't thank you enough for just for that kind of encouragement, but also enabling me to do what I love to do. So thank you, Chris. Texas and La Shock. Recently saw another of those Trump enriching himself posts and wondered, has his net worth gone up or down since 2016? If down, he's probably the only politician I know who lost money in office. Yeah, I haven't kept up with it, but he did. I mean, as I understand it, back in 2021, when he officially left on January 20th, his net worth was down. It was lower than it was when he went in. Trump isn't doing this for his own. I mean, again, it's just so it's just so absurd. But again, they just have nothing else, so they go there. But it's like Elon. I mean, once you have $1 trillion, what do you, it's like, now Elon's trying to enrich himself. I mean, it's just like, I mean, Elon, by the way, fun fact, Elon has the Guinness Book of World Records. He has the Guinness Book of World Record for losing the most amount of money. I forgot how many hundreds of billions of dollars it was, but he lost the most money. He's gained the most money more than anyone else, but he's also lost more than anyone else. He doesn't care, and he's just come out and made that very clear. He doesn't care per se. That's not what animates him. That's not what animates Trump either. Do they want to get paid for what they did? Of course, yeah. It's only fair. It's only right. There's a sense of justice, but obviously that's not what animates him. Lewis, have you read the Pentagon's national security strategy document released in 2025? It's a preview of Iran and how the U.S. wanted to test our allies. Shows Israel has nothing to do with starting it. Lewis, if I had an award, if I could give an award, you'd get it, Lewis. Yeah, everyone should do that. I have, Lewis, and thank you for this. It's brilliant. Everyone should do that. It's only Lewis? It's not long. It's like 30 pages, if I recall. It's basically a PDF. If you go and look up the national security strategy, Trump national security strategy, December 2025, came out in December. It is brilliant. It is a brilliant overview of a civilizationalist geopolitics. It's basically what it is. And it'll give you the blueprint for how the United States under the Trump administration is thinking about the world, and how it's thinking about Europe, how it thinks about national security as a whole. And I think you're absolutely right. It's a perfect example. But I'm trying to recall now to the extent at which got into the Abraham Accords, but it is more or less a blueprint for what's known as networked multipolarity. And what this means is the United States, as a massive civilization state, is basically reconfiguring the world around itself through alliances with other sovereign civilizations. So whether, going through, so it's got its own, shield of Americas here in the Western Hemisphere, and then goes through Greenland, which we more or less have embassy-like sovereignty over, and through to NATO, whatever replaces NATO. Eventually, it'll be something. We're always going to have some kind of transatlantic alliance, and then from NATO into the Middle East via the Abraham Accords. So with Israel, the Mediterranean is connected to Persian Gulf and all that via the Abraham Accords alliances with Bahrain, and UAE is part of that. And then there's what's known as the I2U2, which is very important. So that's Israel and India, so two I's, and the United States and the United Arab Emirates, so two U's, the I2U2. And that connects the Mediterranean all the way to the Indian Ocean. And then we have the Quad, which connects India, Australia. Shout out to our previous our Aussie speaker here, commenter. So to Australia, to Japan, and the United States. That's the Quad. And so all the way from the Atlantic, around the Middle East, Indian Ocean, all the way to the Southeast Asia, all the way then to the Pacific, back around, you have an entire civilizational structuralist world revolving around the United States. And in fact, that's what, in many ways, the national security strategy is securing. And the argument is, if we have that, we control, in effect, 60% of the world's oil supply permanently. If we have that, we have all the major tech centers of the world. We have all the major choke points in the world, right? Hormuz is just the beginning there, right? The Strait of Malacca, right around Indonesia, and Malaysia. So you put all of that together, and you have an American civilizational dominance for the foreseeable future. And that's what's going on. That's what Trump is. This is part of what making America great is all about. It's not just making America great at the pump, right? It's not just making America great at our own borders. By the way, 16 straight months without a single illegal crossing just came out. It's not just making America great at, getting rid of wokeness and so forth. It's making America great by keeping America at the center of a civilizationalist world, so that, again, we always have the leverage. We always have what others want, and we provide it for them via networked multipolar alliances. So brilliant. So everyone should read that. Absolutely. Lewis, thank you. Bert, good morning, Dr. Steve. Do you believe NATO will really send ships to clean up and patrol the strait? Good question. Good question. I mean, Trump really badgered them. He really beat them up. Georgia Maloney is very upset at Trump right now, as of today, after the G7. And she's like, why does he talk to allies this way? Because with allies like you, who needs enemies? I mean, it's just that simple. You guys, I mean, you're so, what's the word? You're so lethargic. You just don't do anything on the world stage. You just expect America to basically do everything for you. And Trump has just had it with that kind of nonsense. In a civilizationalist world, you need to step up. And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I would assume eventually, but only when it's safe. Joan, is there any way to get the Trump-hating rhino senators to vote for the SAVE Act? Many of us have pestered them incessantly. Why can't they respect the voters more than they hate Trump? And why do they hate Trump so much? Yeah. No, it's I don't even know if it's so much they hate Trump. They hate Trump in the end because he interrupted their gravy train. They had a good thing going for 70 years if you go all the way post World War II. But for the last 30, 40 years prior to Trump, with the fall of the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall, I mean, we basically ruled the world. And that's a lot of money coming into your coffers. And so it didn't matter if you were the majority or the minority. It didn't matter. You see, that's the thing about the political class. The political class, by its nature, is non-political. When you become a member of the political class, it doesn't matter which party. The party was just the apparatus that got you in. When you get in, you all of a sudden realize you're above the law. No one can touch you, right? Generally speaking. You have access to information that can make you millions easily, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene apparently did that, from what I understand. She made a lot of money on the stock market. And you, again, that's what I understand, right? And then you, as long as you are a team player, you're always going to have access to the gravy train. You're always going to have access to whatever the establishment has access to. So I know a lot of people believe in this kind of Epstein-like thing that everybody inside the government has, they have compromising information on them that can always be used at the drop of a hat if they don't stay in line. I don't necessarily believe that. I know there's some. I've heard Madison Cawthorn has brought that up. I think he was even a bit of a victim of that. But I don't think that's necessarily needed. I don't think you need to keep them in line with threats. You keep them in line with jewels. You keep them in line with riches. And so I think that's what's been going on. And Trump totally, he was like, he was the bull in the china shop. He just blew that apart. And the entire establishment aligned together to defeat him and put in Hillary because she was establishment player with Bill. And they lost. And then they tried to take him out frustrate him all throughout his first term with the whole Russia investigation. And then that didn't go anywhere because it turned out Robert Mueller was an incompetent rube. And then they took him out with Biden and with the whole COVID stuff in 2020. And then he came back. So they hate him because he beat him in the end. And now there's always going to be an establishment. There's always going to be an aristocracy, but they have to go more with this aristopopulist model. And that's what we're finding with this round of midterms here is we're getting a lot more like Ken Paxton and so forth. We're getting a lot more pro-populist MAGA folk coming in. They'll be part of the establishment, but as part of the establishment, they're going to make sure that they are representing our interests, not their interests. So the establishment today, well, prior to Trump, was an establishment that, as we all know, created a massive gap of alienation between the people and the permanent political class, since they were pursuing their own values, interests, and concerns at the expense of the values, interests, and concerns of the people. So what an aristopopulist society does is, okay, you still got your establishment, you still got your elites, but at the very least, they're going to use their power. They know that they have a vested political interest in doing this. They're going to use their power in order to promote the values, interests of the people as over and against any kind of foreign alien value and interest. So anyway, when all said and done, you still have the hangover of the old House of Lords elite that hate Trump, they hate you, they hate me, because all they love is power, and we interrupted it. So in the end, is there any way of getting the Trump hating rhino senators to vote for the SAVE Act? Yes, but you got to figure out, this is where Thune has to come in our earlier question. You're going to have to figure out, bottom line, what is it that they want, right? Because this is what leverage is all about. Leverage is having something they want. What do they want? What is it? How do you buy them? What do you need to do? Every man's got his price. So you got to find out what that price is. And then all you need is two or three to vote, and to vote to at least attach it to a reconciliation bill. That's all you need. And so we'll see. And again, Thune hasn't fired the Senate parliamentarian. Trump's like, fire her. You have that power, but he's not. He does not appear to know how to use power. And if you don't use power, you're going to lose it. Texas and LaShock, it seems the anti-Vance faction has been stirring lately. Any idea what's going on there? Yes, good. Texas and LaShock, you definitely, that's very good discernment on your part. Yes. What we're seeing right now is the neocon wing, the very, very small, tiny neocon faction that basically did nothing for Trump in 2024. I mean, I think they were very anti-woke, and so they came on board with us, and they were Trump's best friend since February 28th for sure. But now, no, they are now they're all hating on Trump, and they're using the fact that it was Vance that is the one that more or less negotiated this peace. They're exploiting that in order to try to put Marco in front. So this is the same crap we dealt with in 2022, 21 and 22 with the Ron DeSantis crowd. And if you look, they overlap almost entirely. Okay, it's the same crap. It's not going to work. It's not going to go anywhere. The only person who's going to win in 2028 in terms of the nomination is the one Trump anoints. It's the one Trump endorses. And he's already made it clear he's going to endorse Vance. And it's going to be a Vance-Rubio ticket. So everybody will be happy and we'll have a united ticket. But that's not stopping them because there's a lot of money behind this stuff. That's what is driving all of this when all said and done is money and power. And there are people who know they can make people pro-Rubio people. So we're talking, advisor class and the like, the polling class. And so they know they can make tons of money if they can convince the big pockets to write checks to pro-Rubio PACs. And so they enlist the help of these podcasters and social media voices to cast doubt and throw shade on JD in order to, it's just purely by implication. We can't have JD. We can't have, if it's JD and Newsom, I'm voting Newsom. All they're doing is they're trying to scare the big pockets who generally are political idiots. They're political morons, and they're very easily swayed. They're trying to convince them to write big checks their direction. They don't care necessarily about Marco per se. There's just a lot of money behind this. I pay no attention to it. It's not going to have any more effect than it did with Ron DeSantis in 2022. But very discerning of you. Ascension, after a year of listening to you rant about the public school system failing, you inspired me to build Ascension Hive, 10-kid Christian school, Christian-based, parent-governed, using ESA, so Education Savings, Education Savings, is that, well, I forget what the A is, but ESA is right where we have HSA, saving account, yes, Education Savings Account grants, zero cost to parents. Ascension Hive, God bless you, man. That is so awesome. And where are you from? Where's I don't know the THB, what the currency is. But if you're outside, we just did a big classical school conference in Budapest, and we just did one in Brasilia, in Brazil, the capital of Brazil. And we're going to be doing one in Atlanta next week. Come on out and see me. If you're in the Atlanta area on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'll go to the ACCS website, Association of Classical Christian Schools. But God bless it, Ascension. It's going to be the most beautiful project and endeavor you could possibly do. You're working for eternity, and it's awesome. Tiger, Dr. Steve, there is a report out there that Representative Jeffries has drafted an affordability agenda in which he put AOC in charge of healthcare, Trans Dem in charge of caregiving, etc. If that's true, will we now have to doctor AOC and the likes of Dr. Jill Biden, since she would be in charge of healthcare? And what unusual title will the Trans Dem assume? I still remember Whoopi said, I think Dr. Jill Biden would be a great, what did she want her to be? Surgeon General. She's a great doctor. She's not that kind of doctor. She's a PhD. She's not that kind of doctor. But just the way she was just so obviously talking out of her butt, and yet didn't matter. Doesn't matter because her heart is right. I don't know what it's called. Don't set me up like that. I don't know. What were we, the trans doctor? I'm not even going to say. I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble, Tiger 6. I don't know. You come up. You guys put it in the comments. Kat Marie, you are one of my few must-watch daily shows. You bring the receipts. Love your delivery. Thank you. Appreciate you. And I appreciate you, Kat Marie. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. That makes my day. Ascension Hive, we're gifting you 2.5% founding stake for the inspiration. Letter sent to team. on June 13th, 2026, titled Brazil. Oh, so you are in Brazil. Brazil Parallel Infrastructure Proposal. Please look. I will. Josh, if you can, just make a note for everyone to keep an eye out for that. So you are. Were you in Brasilia? Let me know if you were in Brasilia. But thank you for that. So is that the Real? Is that the THB for Brazilian? Is it Brazilian Real? I'm trying to remember. P. Favada, good to hear from you, my friend. I hear they've opened a new Laring Center in Chicago called Barack Obama Presidential Library. Nothing to see here, brutalist on display. Is that not the biggest eyesore imagine? I mean, if ever there were a monument to what that dude is, yeah. I mean, Trump, Obama, I love this expression. Obama was to politics what pigeons are to statues. And I can't, I'm just glad pigeons have another ugly monument to do their business on. It is just disgusting. Gary, has Russia and Ukraine ended war, but not been played out optics wise? As Russia's in on the peace board? Thanks. I don't know if they're fully on the peace board yet. No, it is not. It is not ended. And so I think President Trump is doing his best to try to remember the big thing for Trump is he's trying to do a reverse Kissinger. He's trying to decouple Russia away from China the way Kissinger was able to decouple China away from Russia. Trump is all about, and you can go back to this National Security Initiative document that was published back in December 2025. They really want to box out China. They see China as the biggest threat to an American envisioned world stability. So he really wants to see Russia come on board there. But I know it's still unfortunately going on, and they do seem to be really in quite the quagmire. Stephanie, hey, Dr. Steve, I've been hearing Iran got everything and we got nothing out of the Iran deal. How best can I explain to people what this deal really entails in terms they can understand since they don't watch your channels? Okay. Yeah. Well, you could, I mean, one thing you could do, just, go to the beginning of the video or just go through when I start explaining it and just, write down a couple of notes of how I played it out for you, or how I listed out for you. But no, I mean, yeah, you're going to get that from people. People are going to say that because they're listening to some dumb things. But in the end, it's simply not true. And what I like to do usually when I'm trying to convince people is send them to more of a neutral source. And I don't have one off the top of my head, unfortunately. But what I would say is this. You could take a couple of different angles. One angle would be that when the dust settled, what all parties discovered was that the one ace in the hole, the one leverage card that Iran had, died. And that one leverage card was closing the Strait of Hormuz. What Operation Economic Freedom, the reverse counter blockade did is it did two things. It was able to accompany ships to go through the strait, yes, at a limited level, but still they were able to go through without being harassed by Iranian forces. And they prevented Iran from getting $500 million of oil revenue per day that they were getting originally from more or less from China. China was buying up 80-90%. So the vision I like to pick up, it's kind of like this, rear naked chokehold that this reverse blockade, this counter blockade created on Iran, and they just could not continue in perpetuity of it. Yeah, we were paying $5 per gallon gas, but they were losing 500 million a day. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out which one is going to run out for the other. So it was actually Iran who blinked. It was actually Iran who said, look, how about this? We'll open up the Strait of Hormuz permanently, right? We'll open it up permanently because the moment they close it again, the chokehold gets back on. We'll open it up permanently. Can we do something? Can we work? And Trump said yes. Okay. What Trump recognized, what everyone recognized at that moment, was Iran had nothing. Their Air Force was gone. Their Navy was gone. 90% of ballistic missiles were gone. They just really had very, very little military hardware to project power. Obviously, they would attack the reverse blockade, and they couldn't. So they had nothing, and they no longer had the Strait of Hormuz as their number one leverage card. And so Trump said, as you turn towards the world will turn towards you. Now that you don't have anything, as you turn to the world would turn towards you. As you cooperate more and more with us, we will cooperate more and more with you. But if you go the other way, then especially in terms of trying to like close Hormuz again, if you go to your old habits, then we'll just put the reverse naked chokehold on you, or rear naked chokehold. I keep doing this wrong. So that's one way of just kind of zeroing it all in and saying, okay, that's it. And then what does it involve with, as you are to the world is to you? Well, we have our demands, right? You always have to keep Hormuz open. You have to give up your enriched uranium. You can no longer pursue nuclear weapons. You can no longer fund your proxies. As long as you are complying with all those things and moving in that direction, again, it's like a dial. The more you're dialing upward, the more we're going to get. The more you have every incentive in the world to go in that direction. But the more you dial back, the more we're going to just go back to the status quo of that, of that chokehold. So what they're operating from, unfortunately, is this notion that nothing changed between Trump and Obama when everything has changed. So Obama gave him big piles of cash and just said, follow through with what you promised to do. We'll pay you first, and then we'll trust that you'll comply later. What Trump is doing is he eradicated their ability to project power, eradicated it. And again, the proof in that is they couldn't do anything with the reverse blockade. So they eradicated their ability to project power, took away their Hormuz card. And then on that basis, they tapped out, they blinked, said, all right, we'll open up Hormuz. Can we get a deal? And Trump said, yes. What we'll do is, okay, you opened up Hormuz. Now, as you give us the enriched uranium, now as you empty out the bank accounts with funding your proxies, as you close down your missile program and all the sort of stuff, we're going to continue then to more and more have a beneficial relationship with you. We're going to reward you for that. And that's not even the United States doing it. It's the Abraham Accords nations. It's the Gulf states, the Arab states that'll be doing that, because they're the ones that have ultimate responsibility over the peace and prosperity of the region. So there you go. That's probably how I would just kind of walk them through it. Now, if you're just dealing with somebody who's just being a jerk about it, and there's plenty right now in the neocon world that's just being a jerk about it, just let them be a jerk. It's all right. Just watch the price of the pump go down and poll numbers go up. Linda, let's see. Why is Putin so bent on taking Ukraine? Oh, gosh. The costs are astronomical. Is the geography essential? to access to waterways, or has it become a case of Putin's self-image? Linda, are you a Johnny come lately here? Hold on. You'll have to see some videos I've done on this, especially after February of 2022 when it first happened. But no, it's more than that. It's bottom line. I would argue that Ukraine happened as a result of American and NATO forces overextending themselves into what's known as Russia's hegemon. What is a hegemon? In a rising civilizationalist world where it's not so much liberal globalist institutions like the WTO and the IMF or the UN that are running the world. It's now America kind of runs the Western Hemisphere. Russia runs sort of its Eurasian sphere. India runs, the Indian Sea and South Asia. China sort of runs, meaning just they're the strongest power in these particular regions in the Pacific Asia. In this civilizationalist world, the key characteristic of a great power within a region is it never allows for any peer competitors. You can never have a peer, or else you're not the great power. The peer competitor is. It's just the definition of a great power. So that's our Monroe Doctrine. The United States is the sole sovereign within the Western Hemisphere. We do not even remotely tolerate another power. That's why we were so easily able to kick out China from the Panama Canal of having any influence there. China feels in many ways the same way about Taiwan, right or wrong. That's just the way it is. And Russia, for 30 years, warned NATO that their sphere of sovereignty, as far as they're concerned, it does begin at Ukraine and Ukraine's borders. You see it as well with Belarus and so forth. And if you cross over there, if you try to make Ukraine a member of NATO, we're going to act. We're going to push you out. That's what a great power will do. If it just like what Kennedy did to Khrushchev with the Cuban Missile Crisis, we will act. We will not tolerate a peer competitor in our sphere. So what happened basically at the 214 Maidan Revolution is that in Kiev, Ukraine ended up more or less becoming a de facto ally of NATO because Ukraine split East and West Ukraine, the Donbass region in the West, the Russian-speaking side, and they were separatists and they wanted to more or less either have their own sovereign nation or join up with Russia, which they eventually did, and so they tried to break away, and then NATO started arming Eastern Ukraine and Kiev with military might, and Putin said, "You just effectively turned Ukraine into a NATO ally." And then there was talk of at the Munich Security Council, I think it was in 2020, 2021, something like that. Now it's time to find Munich Security Council is where NATO meets every year. It's time to finally formally bring Ukraine into NATO, and Putin said that's it, and so they acted. Now that is a calculus that was spoken openly by every Russian leader since Gorbachev, when the Soviet Union, when Eastern Europe fell, and Germany and Eastern Europe were going to get united, and that meant that NATO was going to start encroaching eastward toward Russia. And Gorbachev said, "We don't like that." Bush Sr. said, "Look, we'll keep it at Germany, and we won't go beyond that." Well, Clinton got rid of that. So anyway, he brought in, if I remember, Hungary and the Czech Republic, but in 98 or so. And then it was a house of cards after that. All the countries in Eastern Europe, Central Europe wanted to join up with NATO. Doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, whatever, just in terms of in terms of realist geopolitics, the trigger that process always had the risk of, snapping was that the other great power hegemon could push back, and that's what happened. So that's basically it. It has nothing to do with Putin's self-image. It's got nothing to do with geography or anything like that. It has to do with great power politics. That's how I understand it. Mitch, Dr. Turley, Brandon Langley wants to collab with you. Just thought I would pass it along with you, always for wise analysis. Yeah, I have to look up Brandon Langley. I do not. The name sounds familiar, so I'd love to. I like collab, so we could see what we could do. And Rebel Squirrel, Dr. Steve, one more factor behind the Russian war versus Ukraine is the symbolic importance of Kiev to a Russian civilizational state, is it not? Yes, certainly Prince Vladimir and all, and the Christianization of Russia is coming by way of Kiev. Sure, no question about it. Again, it's funny, I don't think Russia necessarily even needs like physical Kiev per se, but it just, it sees NATO encroachment as shrinking their civilizational sphere. And so they pushed back, and then they made sure that they took the thoroughly Russian side of the eastern side of Ukraine, as a way of saying, you shall not pass, in effect. And they're not. I don't see any way they're going to get that back. They've been permanently annexed into Russia itself. Russia as a federation has grown, and it's now again they've lost Kiev, right? But as a federation they've grown. So it's kind of a, it's a back and forth there. But yes, absolutely, Rebel, you're right. And that's it. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Again, I'm your back porch professor. If any big events pop up, make sure to check out this channel. And but until then, until Monday of next week, have a wonderful and beautiful weekend. Love you guys. God bless.